My name is Fiona Shaw, and I play Carolyn Martins, who's head of the Russian desk at MI6. Well, in season 1, I start up a sort of splinter group, which is kept secret from most people, including MI6, with a small budget, to have a sort of rogue group who could find out something about the sequence of murders that seemed to be done by a woman. And I need a talented young person to pursue this, and I find it in Eve. So it's about that, and then we end up going to Russia, and there, of course, Eve discovers that I know many Russians from the past. So suspicion falls on Carolyn. So it's and that was great, because Carolyn also changes her character when she gets to Russia, and for the first time in the series starts to smile and laugh, having not at all during the rest of it. Well, it's early days, but it would seem that we've now closed the splinter group, and we've now gone back to join MI6 with some new people joining us. But they're not new people to me. I've already known them from before, but they're no longer part, and my son is still part of this group. And we are now pursuing or trying to solve a case of, am I allowed to tell you this, spoiler-wise?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
So we're now trying to solve a case of the Peels, where a man who was as powerful as the Murdochs has seems to have died of natural causes, but we soon discovered that wasn't the case. And if that is the case, we need to know who did the murder, but it doesn't seem to be a Villanelle murder. So there's a pursuit now of another killer. So there's now 2 killers on the loose. And it's really, I suppose I've discovered in this season that Carolyn floats above a lot, knows an enormous amount that the others don't know. So sometimes it's playing a longer game in the series than her behaviour might appear to show. So I think I'm rather more involved with the Russian dissident than meets the eye. So Konstantin is a sort of Russian, not quite equivalent, but somebody I dealt with 20 years ago in Russia, and has inveigled his way back into my life, but also because he has been very connected to Villanelle, as the audience will have enjoyed. But our acquaintanceship is more than that. It's a friendship, and possibly they were lovers, probably. And you're going to see much more of him and I together. Well, you know, Carolyn, and probably, I don't know whether this is true to people in MI6, but the personality needed to work in MI6 is very particular. It's not warm and cuddly, because you have to be wary of everything everyone says to you. So you have to be very careful of what you say and how you behave and who you love. So Carolyn has a son called Kenny, who I'm sure, you know, she loves as much as anybody loves their son. But you can't appear to know that or show that, because you can't afford to have any weakness. So it's a good tension in that love of son and mother. The same too with other relationships. I suspect that Carolyn's had a series of disastrous relationships, because in the end, the love of this particular type of work dominates people's lives completely. And it is intriguing. The public become a sort of group who, you know, are living their lives, but they're not interesting to the fault line that I think Carolyn and her team are always looking for. And for behavioural excesses, which I think most of us don't believe many people behave outside a certain pendulum swing, but definitely they do in Killing Eve, and definitely, you know, Carolyn is not surprised by anything. Well, I mean, the thing has to keep twisting. I hate telling you about this because it is meant to twist and twist, but what you kind of understand is that where you think perhaps Carolyn and Eve would become friends, because then they would be on the same side, no one's ever sure of anyone's side. I mean, they are, in theory, that they're all working together. And what I think is amazing, it's a bit like saying that corruption is not the ruination of a country, is that lying is not the ruination of a relationship. That's what the weird pivot of this is that sometimes you only tell people information on a needs-to-know basis. You might know something quite contrary around the back. So I think Eve and Carolyn have both a good relationship in one way and a disastrous relationship in another, because Eve needs support and encouragement, and Carolyn just doesn't give it. She gives support, but not encouragement. Well, I was very keen on Carolyn being very like me, and very quickly discovered that she really isn't. So you keep on trying to play something from the sort of range of feelings that you have around people. But in this, I was very surprised to discover that Carolyn really functions not smiling, not laughing. You never know whether she's making a joke or not, and that is great to play, and very hard to play actually, but it's very good to play. And that you never know whether she's serious or whether the joke is inadvertent or whether she knows she's made it. And I think that's also the power of the series, that you never know what these people are thinking. And there's great harm potentially, but they're not vulnerable to the charm of humour. They don't have a charm with it. They can be quite hostile with humour, but nothing is very clear. It's the ambiguity that is the permanent knife edge on which the thing works, I think. What I feel is very new about it is that the joke is never a button. It never lands. So you're not sure where you are. There's a sort of vacuum is created around every line. And this vacuum is both disturbing to the audience, exciting for the audience, and for the performers, I have to say. And so you're not playing the music of television you might know. You're playing a sort of slightly offbeat music. It's weird, a bit like syncopation in some way. Well, we've all been brought up on, endless boys doing this work and enjoyed them. So it's fantastic to have 3 people who are female running this world, or running even the good and bad of this world. And also it's really a joy, I think, for all of us not to playing virtue. Women often play virtue, and it's very nice not necessarily to be good and not necessarily to be bad. Well, except Villanelle, who's very bad. But it's a moral, ambiguous world. And also, of course, the action that the 3 women are not tied to a home or tied to husbands or tied to sons. They are absolutely tied to the vision of excitement that life can be for both genders. And it's fantastic to have the opportunity to play that. I mean, I'm not going to say James Bond, because I think it's not James Bond. It's about your biggest fears about what women might be. It's about the discomfort of a world where there's nothing sure, and not even the people in it are sure. So it's a thriller, and it is funny, but it's disquieting. So it's a very fulfilling, I think, event.